Welcome to the third video of the series of 7 QC tools. Here in this video, we are going to learn about the Pareto chart or the Pareto analysis. Here in this video, we are going to learn about the origin of the Pareto chart, the benefits of using the Pareto chart, how to use the Pareto chart, the elements of the chart, and we are also going to learn about how to set up the Pareto chart in the Excel. Without any further delay, let's move on to the video. So what is Pareto chart? A Pareto chart is a bar graph plus line graph that helps you to identify and prioritize problems or causes based on their frequency or impact. The bar graph, which shows the individual values of each of these defect categories in descending order from left to right, which shows here in the descending order. The line graph is a cumulative percentage of the total. Here, what the definition of the Pareto chart is saying is the Pareto chart is not just a bar graph, is not just a line graph. It is a combination of both bar graph and line graph, which helps us what? Which helps us with identification and the prioritization of the problems or the defect categories or the causes based on what? Based on their frequency, or the count or the NC categories or the impact. Here in this Pareto chart, we have the defect categories, 11 defect categories we have. Here the first category, the birds not removed. We have 15 complaints under this category, which confirms to 18% of all the defect categories what we have. Here for the defect categories, the cutting parameter error, that is, we have a 12 categories, 12 complaints under this category. Here the sum of both these categories is, that is 15 plus 12, which is 27. That 27 sum of all these both categories sums up or confirms to 33% of all these defect categories, and the cumulative percentage is calculated for each of these defect categories, which confirms to 100% at the end. So a combination of the bar chart, which shows the frequency of each of these defect categories, and the cumulative percentage line graph, the combination of both these line graphs and bar graphs gives us the Pareto chart or the Pareto analysis. So coming to the Pareto chart origin. The Pareto chart is named after the Vilfredo Pareto, who was an Italian economist, sociologist, and a philosopher. In 1896, while studying the wealth distribution in Italy, Pareto discovered an interesting pattern. Here, the 80% of the Italy's land was owned by 20% of the population. Here you can see the 80% and the 20%, which gives us the 80-20 distribution. This 80-20 distribution pattern, or this pattern, was not just limited in this wealth distribution study. It was also noticed similar imbalances or similar patterns in other areas like business ownership, income, and production. For example, the 80% of the complaints in a company comes from the 20% of the customers. The 80% of the sales come from 20% of the products. 80% of the machine downtime is caused by 20% of the 20% of failure types. These similar patterns, the 80-20 patterns, 80-20 distribution, was also visualized in other areas of business ownership, the income, and the production areas as well. But this principle is not a strict law, but rather a general rule of thumb. This pattern may be or may not be visualized in other areas. Now coming to Sir Joseph Juran's contribution in the application of the Pareto chart in modern quality management tools. In the 1940s, Dr. Joseph M. Juran, a key figure in quality management, introduced Pareto's concept into the industry quality control. Means he introduced the Pareto's concept, which is the 80-20 distribution or 80-20 concept, into the quality control. He coined the term the Pareto principle. The principle is the 80-20 and applied it to the problem solving in manufacturing and business. He called it the vital few and the trivial many. Here, the vital few represents the 20% of the causes and the trivial many represent the major impact what we are having, the 80%. Juran recognized that not all causes contribute equally to a problem. Some vital few causes like the 20% or may not be 20% contribute to the majority of the issues or the problems what we are facing, while many others of the problem what we have impact like the 80% of all the other causes have minimal impact. So that is how Dr. Joseph Juran introduced the Pareto concept into the problem solving in manufacturing and business. He called it as the 80-20 principle or the Pareto principle. So what are the benefits of using the Pareto chart? The benefits of using the Pareto chart are: the focuses attention on the vital few causes that have the greatest impact. These vital few causes is the 20% of all the defect categories what we are having, which is causing the greatest impact or the greatest problems what we are facing, which is the 80%. The other benefit of the Pareto chart is supports decision based on the quantifiable data, not just assumptions. Here the Pareto chart supports the decision making based on the quantifiable data or the data based decision making and not just assumptions. The other benefit of using the Pareto chart here is it helps us to allocate resources effectively by targeting the most significant issues. So targeting the most significant issues is since we are focusing most our attention on the vital few causes, we will allocate resources to solve these vital few causes which is causing the greatest impact. So it helps us to allocate resources effectively without any waste. So the vital few causes, the problems can be solved easily. So when to use this Pareto chart, or the use of a Pareto chart when you want to prioritize which problems to be solved first, means that when you have so many root causes or the defect categories, you need to prioritize which causes are to be solved first. In this scenario, the Pareto chart is used. Visualize which causes are costing us more. Means by using the Pareto chart, if you want to analyze which causes are making us lose more money in the company, then we can use Pareto chart to know which causes are affecting us most. Now coming to the elements of the Pareto chart, it consists of various elements. The most important elements are as below. The first element is the horizontal axis or the x-axis. This x-axis consists of defect categories or the NC categories or the categories under study. Here the vertical axis consists of two types. One is the left one and the right axis, that is y-axis on the right. The y-axis on the left side, it provides us the cumulative sum or the frequency or it provides the axis for the bar graphs, which acts as which represents the frequency of each of these defect categories. The vertical axis on the right, it represents the axis for the line graph, which is representation of the cumulative percent of each of these defect categories. Each the cumulative percent adds up to the 100% on the right, adding up from the left to the right. Another important element of the Pareto chart is this bar graph. The bar graph is representing the frequency of each of these defect categories, which is arranged in the descending order from the left to the right. The line graph represents the cumulative percentage, which adds up to 100, as I told you before, which adds up from left to the right. Another element of this Pareto chart is the title of the chart, which enables the user to insert information related to the Pareto chart under the study. Other important elements are the title blocks for the axis on the left, on the right for the y-axis, and also for the x-axis as well. All these elements form the Pareto chart. Next, we are going to discuss on how to plot the Pareto chart in Excel and also on the Google Sheet. We are going to learn on how to plot this Pareto chart in the Excel as well as in the Google Sheets. Now, before plotting the Pareto chart in the Excel, you need to learn how to derive the data required to plot the Pareto chart from the in the Excel. See, I have here the non-conformance register, which has the data that in which part description I have, in what type of non-conformances which has been observed, in how much quantity. I have so many part numbers, I have so many part the corresponding part description, the non-conformance description, and also the quantity. But when you want to study and focus on only a vital few important non-conformances, so that you can solve a majority of the problem, you cannot do that by considering the NC description what we have. But there is a way by categorizing these different types of non-conformance description under a specific number of NC categories. For example, from P1011 to P1017 part numbers, I have these many of non-conformances, but they are all considered to be non-conformances related to the dimension out of spec. Hence, I have categorized all these non-conformances under the dimension out of spec category. If I see all the birth related non-conformances, here you can see all these related to the birth uh, which has been observed in the part which has affected the assembly failure, which has affected it's a not it, it is a standard that not having bursts at all in the final part. So this is a non-conformance which has been observed in some of these parts, and I have considered them under the category bursts not removed. So uh, by considering or categorizing each of these non-conformances under each of these NC categories, I will have a handful of NC categories so that I can focus on the majority or major non-conformance category and focus on that particular category to solve the problem. So how to do that is we can do it through the pivot table. how to do the pivot table in the Excel is by selecting all the data in this table. Go to insert, click on pivot table, go to new worksheet, click on OK. You will arrive at an additional worksheet here. Go to NC category, drag this NC category into the row, drag this NC category into the value. Now you will have a table which shows all the non-conformance category and the sum of their NC categories or the frequency of the NC category. You can see the majority of the non-conformance category which I am having is the birds not removed. The 15 complaints I am having. The least is the machine condition issue. That is a least non-conformance category which I am having. And another list is the improper heat treatment. That is also a non-conformance. By doing this, you can get the insights on which NC category is having, in which NC category I am facing the problem. Now, what do we need to do to plot the Pareto chart here is you need to copy the data from the pivot table. So paste this table like this. Now what we need to do is you need to categorize this count of NC category in the arrange this NC category in the descending order. Go to data, click on Z to A, expand the selection, click on sort. Now the data has been sorted in the descending order. Now what we need to do is we need to total all the NC categories. For this you need to arrive at the sum of all the NC category. How is you need to click on is equal to sum, double click on this, select all the data from the first category to the last, close the bracket. You will get the sum as the 82. Now what we need to do is you need to arrive at the cumulative sum for all these NC categories. Click on 15 is equal to 12 plus 15 is equal to 9 plus 27. This shows the sum of the first two categories. This shows the sum of the three categories. This value shows the sum of all the four categories. Like that, you need to arrive the cumulative sum for all the NC categories provided here. So drag the formula. At the end, this value should be equal to the total sum of all the NC categories. The next step now is the cumulative percentage. For arriving at cumulative percentage, you need to insert formula in the first column as is equal to the cumulative sum divided by sum. Double click, select all the NC category frequency from first category to the last, close the bracket, click on F4, click here and insert a dollar sign, shift F4, click enter. I'll show you again. For the cumulative percentage is equal to 15 divided by sum, double click, select all the NC frequency, close the bracket, click on F4, click here, Shift 4, click on enter. You will get a decimal point number, but you need to arrive at a percentage. So click on the percentage style here in this home. Then you will arrive at the percentage number for corresponding to this frequency of this category. This shows that the 15 complaints is 18% of 82, the total complaints. So click on this and drag the formula until the last NC category. The last NC category should be 100%. If not, there will be some error in any of these rows, in the formulas in any of these rows. So there is two conditions here before plotting the Pareto chart, that the sum should be equal to the total sum here, and the cumulative percent should be 100%. Now, how to this data is enough to plot the Pareto chart in the Excel. Now we'll look into how to plot the Pareto chart. Select the first two columns, click Control. While clicking on the Control button, select the cumulative percentage column. Now go to Insert, go to Clustered column, click on this. You will get a chart. In this chart, you can see that it has an x-axis and it has only y-axis, and it has two types of bar graphs. One bar graph is for count of NC categories, which is this, and another bar graph, the orange color, it is for the cumulative percentage. But as we discussed in the Pareto chart, the elements of the Pareto chart, it will have two axes, one on the left, one on the right. The left is for the bar graph for the frequency, and there will be another axis here on the right, that is for the line graph for the cumulative percentage. So we need to convert this orange bar graph into the line graph. How we can do it is, we need to click on this bar graph. Single click is enough. Then go to chart design. Here change chart type, click on this. Here for cumulative percentage, you need to change from clustered column to the line graph, but it is not in the y-axis in the right side, so there should be a secondary axis. So for the cumulative percentage, click on secondary axis. So you will have the line graph. Click on OK. Now click on this chart elements. Click on data labels. So you will get all the data labels for the bar graph and the line graph as well. Now click on the secondary axis, double click. You will get the format axis. Here go to maximum and click on 1.0, change it 1.2 to 1.0. This will change the secondary axis from 0 to 100%, not 120%, which we had at the starting. So this is the Pareto chart. If you need to change this legend to the top, double click, right click, format legend, top, close. This is the title block, another element what we discussed. We can enter Pareto analysis for NC category. This is how we can arrive at the the Pareto chart, the Pareto analysis for the NC category. Look into this plotting of the Pareto chart here in the Google Sheets. Now I have with me the same data which I had plotted in the Excel. So you know how to arrive at the cumulative sum and the cumulative percentage. Now to plot the Pareto chart in this Google Sheets, you need to select the same columns, control, click on the control, select the cumulative percentage column, go to insert, select chart. Automatically it will take the combo chart type. Here you can see that we have only the x-axis and one y-axis for the bar chart and the line chart as well. So we need to arrive at two vertical axes. So click on the line chart, go to axis, go to right axis. It will provide you the secondary axis. So we have to arrive at the data labels. So click on any bar graph, double click, go to the data labels, go to, if you want the position to be changed, if you can change by in the position. If you want to have different font, different data font size, you can change here in this data label font size. Now I'll be having at 12. So for the line, go to this series, there select cumulative percentage, again scroll down, click on data labels, position change it to below because it is not showing here because it is out of the region of the chart. So click on, if you want to change it to a different font, here you can change to Arial. If you want to change the size, again you can change the size as well. If you want to change the title, you can change it here in this title text as Pareto chart. Pareto chart for NC category. So this is how you can arrive at the Pareto chart for the NC category. If you want, you can also arrange this chart here in this Google Sheet. You can also change the font of this NC categories and the x-axis to 10. If you want to arrive at the name or data labels for the axis titles for the y-axis on the left and right, click, double click, go to vertical axis title, click on, this is vertical axis title on the left, so this is would be the cumulative sum. So vertical axis on the right, it will be cumulative percentage. So this is how you can arrive at the Pareto chart in the Google Sheets. Now I wanted to discuss with you another concept of this Pareto chart. As I said before, the 80-20 distribution is not a rule, is not an absolute rule. It's a um, thumb rule, like it usually the 20% of the NC categories or the causes will be having 80% of the coverage in this Pareto chart. But if you see this chart, the 20% of this 11 would be 2.12 something around 2. But here you can see that 80% is having the 7 NC categories is having 80% coverage in this NC category, because it depends on the frequency of each of these NC categories. Since the NC category or the frequency of each of these NC category, the difference is somewhat small between these NC categories, the percentage will be more than the percentage should cover almost more than 20% of the causes. But why do you need to check on this Pareto chart? Why do you need to do the Pareto chart analysis? Is that you can focus on which NC category is having how much percentage in the total scenario. See, if you want to solve 50% of the causes, you can focus on the first four NC categories, which is the burrs not removed, the cutting parameter error, the material defect, and the surface finish. If you want to cover the 80% or solve, or if you want to focus on 80% of the causes, you can arrive at all the seven, up to the fixture setup error. So by arriving at the Pareto chart, you can know how much of the NC categories is having how much percentage in the total scenario. This is how you can use the Pareto chart to focus on the vital few. For example, if you want the KPI or your performance for the monthly is, you need to solve at least 30% of the customer complaints. So you need to arrive at NC categories for all the customer complaints. Do a Pareto chart analysis. You will arrive at somewhat a 30% or 40%. If it is having one or two NC categories as the vital few, if you solve only those two problems, it will be covering almost 30 to 45% of all the NC causes or the NC categories. So this is how you can make use of this Pareto chart, so to focus on the vital few factors or the vital few causes which is causing majority of the problems. So now you can plot this Pareto chart both in Excel as well as in the Google Sheet. Thank you for watching the video.